It's the second round of the championship at the Sepang F1 circuit in Malaysia. Many of the drivers are convinced they're facing the toughest test of the year. It's another leap into the unknown as we wonder if the engines and tyres will go the distance. These two should know. Welcome back, Martin Brundle and James Allen.
Thank you very much, Jim. Good morning, everybody back in the UK and watching us around the world. A smoky but extremely hot Sepang in Malaysia, about 25 kilometres north of Kuala Lumpur in the tropical areas of Malaysia. This is the 3.5-mile Sepang circuit. This is the 7th time we've been here, and undoubtedly the hottest race of the season, and the hardest race of the season as well. And just to raise the stakes a little bit, the drivers have to start this race using the engines that have already done one Grand Prix in all the practice sessions so far this weekend. And they've got to make one set of tyres last the whole race, and that perhaps more than anything else is going to be the key to this afternoon's Grand Prix, particularly managing the rear tyres. Some good opportunities for people later in the race who've been careful earlier in the race. Well, whoever wins today will certainly have thoroughly deserved it, as this is a game of endurance Formula 1 style for the spectators too. Everybody's sweating hard there in the grandstands, drinking lots of fluid. I can tell you that the drivers certainly have taken on about 5 litres of fluids since breakfast this morning, and they will lose 4 of those during the course of the Grand Prix. About half a stone in body weight comes off the drivers during the course of the Grand Prix. Just to give you an idea, when Martin and I were down in the pits there filming that little piece on qualifying, I put a bottle of cold water down on the floor, and when we finished about 5 or 10 minutes later, I picked it up and it was like drinking tea. It's that hot here in Malaysia. But what a prospect we have in store as a Grand Prix, one of the most exciting prospects I can remember for a long time. We've got the 2 Renaults of Alonso and the Melbourne winner Fisichella starting first and third, with Jarno Trulli once again in the Toyota getting himself up onto the front row of the grid, as you can see there, with Mark Webber doing a super job to put the Williams up into 4th. But watch out for the danger man today, Kimi Räikkönen. McLaren not really on the pace it seems in the qualifying sessions, but we have indications that car is carrying a lot of fuel today, and he'll be looking to pick off Ralf Schumacher and Webber in the first round of pit stops, and then maybe have a go at the Renaults later on if he's got the pace. Excellent effort from Klian and Coulthard to get themselves there onto the 4th row of the grid, as you can see. Jenson Button now. And then to the back of the grid, and some big names in unfamiliar places. Juan Montoya, Rubens Barrichello, Michael Schumacher. What fun that's going to be. Michael Schumacher behind Barrichello, not only on the grid, but in the World Championship as well. He wants a result today. And Anthony Davidson, you can see, 15th on the grid. He starts today because Takuma Sato, Martin, is still in the medical centre, still attached to a drip with some bizarre kind of fever which afflicted him over Friday night. Davidson put into the car on Saturday morning, and it's a pretty tough test for him, isn't it?
It is. It'll be a very big wake-up call. Anthony needs a strong afternoon, though. Sauber is reputed unhappy with Villeneuve. They're quite vociferous about it in some ways. And somebody like Anthony Davidson or Frank Montagny from the Renault team, maybe 2 or 3 guys that will quite fancy a shot at that drive. And Anthony has got the stage now to demonstrate he should be and could be a fully fledged Grand Prix driver. But, no way, Sato, even if you're a bit sick, I don't think you can drive. Normally you can just, once the adrenaline starts pumping, we're all adrenaline junkies as racing drivers, you can get through anything, but not if you've got a really heavy fever or a massive stomach bug. Even the great Michael Schumacher appears to be sweating gently, merely perspiring, I would imagine, for Michael, but he's got a long afternoon. I saw Ross Brawn on the grid and said, "Hey Ross, how's it looking?" "It's a long walk," was all he would say as he was heading back down there. But Rubens seems, in fact, there's a lot of confidence on it. Cars we think looked horrible in qualifying or underperformed. You talk to the people in the teams like, "Oh, no, we're not too bad." They're quite pumped up about their fuel loads or their opportunities. And the default is, of all of them, yeah, but let's see how many engines get to the end of this, the second race. And I think that's inspiring just about everybody on the grid to give them a chance of outperforming where they probably should be at the end of this Grand Prix, except, of course, Renault.
You saw Fernando Alonso there just pointing as if to an imaginary watch on his wrist, saying, "Are they going to get this thing going or what?" The engines have been starting for a while, and I know all of the drivers who are going through the second weekend on one engine are concerned about engine wear. I should tell you that Nick Heidfeld, the two Minardi drivers had changed their engines before this weekend, and of course, controversially, so too did the two BAR drivers. They parked the cars before the end of the Australian Grand Prix so they could have a new engine for this Grand Prix. Everybody else is using an engine that's gone right through the Melbourne weekend and all the way through this weekend as well.
Bit of an irony for Button though, isn't it, that his engine had a sort of a technical fault really with the oil pump that pretty much hampered his weekend, but that's the luck of the draw in that respect. You can, there's sort of misty, hazy aspect you can see to your picture. I think you need to adjust your sets. There's some forest fires in the distance and around here that's just clouding the whole atmosphere.
Yeah, we have seen that before, very early on. First came to Malaysia back in 1999, if you recall, Eddie Irvine there winning the Grand Prix after Michael Schumacher made his comeback from a broken leg at Silverstone. Let Irvine through to win that day. Pretty smoky on that weekend as well, as I remember, forest fires. But they will dampen the spirits of everybody in Formula 1 because I think everybody thinks this is going to be an exciting race. Not least that man in the centre there, just jogging along, Mike Gascoigne in the Toyota red trousers. Moved from Renault's technical director over to Toyota. He considers this a 1-2-3 for Gascoigne really, with Alonso, Trulli and Fisichella, two Renaults and a Toyota up the front. Certainly claiming some of the responsibility for Renault's current success. So he's on to a winner today one way or another. Watch out for the McLarens and the Ferraris. As you were saying, there is a feeling that they will go perhaps 20-25 laps into this race where the Renaults might stop a little earlier.
Grumbling from Instone, the Renault factory, I could hear them from here, halfway around the world on that one. But, yes, anyway, I think there are a number of people out there who've got sensible packages underneath them. Obviously, Renault are very strong. It'll be interesting to see how long the Toyota can keep its tyres in. They're saying no problem. This time around is the right temperature, the right zone for their tyre choice, unlike Melbourne 2 weeks ago. So they're saying they're confident they can maintain front-running pace. We'll have to wait and see. Weber did a good job to get up to fourth. Raikkonen, we think, is back with fuel in sixth, with the McLaren, as you pointed out, James. And the Red Bull car, just they underperformed. Both Clean and Coulthard, I think, missed half a second yesterday in qualifying one. And I think they are genuine, certainly top 10 and probably top 6 contenders this afternoon. And of course, really what we've got to watch out for is what can Ferrari make of their dreadful grip position? Can they turn it into something better?
Sounds very calm, doesn't he?
Yeah, just a few minutes.
You can warm the tyres up to turn 14. Warm the tyres all straight up to turn 14.
Too late, they're back.
All systems look fine, Fernando. All systems okay.
That was from a little earlier on. He's one that leads out to that back straight. So they're all forming up for the second time in his career. Fernando Alonso starting his Malaysian Grand Prix from pole position. Jarno Trulli alongside him. It's vital that Fisichella gets him into the first corner for his race strategy. Webber and Schumacher behind Raikkonen, Clean, Coulthard, Button and Heidfeld the top 10. And what of Schumacher and Barrichello from the back end of Ferraris? It's all to play for over 56 laps of this Sepang circuit. Where are the lights? Here they are. When they go out, we'll be racing in Malaysia. Are you ready? Go! Away goes Alonso, but Trulli is away nicely as well. Fisichella will not be able to get him. Alonso comes across gently. Look at the Ferraris. Barrichello has a go around the outside of the Williams. And into turn one they go, and they're in as they started the Grand Prix. But in midfield, there's a lot of changes.
And remember, in turn two, they tend to Constantina. Will they get through today? Yes, they have. I think Coulthard had a good start. I think Anthony Davidson had a very poor start towards the back of the field, unfortunately. But at the moment, it's Alonso, Trulli, Fisichella.
And it looks as though Montoya and Barrichello touched on the way out of three. Raikkonen is well up, Button is challenging him. Now Barrichello, Michael Schumacher behind Felipe Massa down in 14th and 15th places. Ferrari have not had a good openings to this Grand Prix so far. You can see the Williams there duking it out with Massa Saba. With a Red Bull, I beg your pardon, of Clean. So it's all going up in midfield.
It was Heidfeld and Coulthard, I think, were jockeying for position. So Heidfeld, let's work out if it was him or whether it was Webber falling back. We'll have to keep an eye on that. I think, and there comes it Raikkonen through past Montoya past Barrichello, all happening back there.
Certainly is. Alonso leads, Trulli second, Fisichella third, fourth is Webber, fifth is Ralf Schumacher, sixth Raikkonen, seventh is Button, eighth David Coulthard, ninth Nick Heidfeld. Clean has dropped back 2 places behind his teammate David Coulthard, so a poor opening lap for Christian Clean. Montoya and Barrichello though, there's an awful lot of action going on between those two. They're battling it out for 11th place. Michael Schumacher 14th and Anthony Davidson 16th at the moment.
Yeah, it was Heidfeld and Coulthard in turns 5 and 6 that were having a good battle. Heidfeld with a great start.
Certainly was. So across the line first time round, 8/10 of a second. Then look at this battle here, coming down the straight between Jenson Button trying to get past Kimi Raikkonen. That's a pass for 6th place, and it looked pretty easy for Button, who's obviously carrying perhaps a little bit less fuel than Raikkonen. And certainly everyone believing that the McLaren is going to run quite long into this Grand Prix, but Raikkonen didn't try too hard to defend that. Once he made the move across to the pit wall, he didn't make another one.
Yeah, much tidier first lap than we've often seen here in Sepang. I think it's this sort of afternoon mindset, right? Let's look at the whole Grand Prix with one set of tyres, and we've got to get these cars through. Let's not trip over somebody in the first corner. I think even subconsciously there's a different mentality to going racing, but Alonso then just romping away at the front and truly building himself a gap back to Fisichella. Webber 4th, Ralf Schumacher 5th, Raikkonen 6th. Now that dropped down into when Button passed him. Computer a bit behind the game here at the moment.
Yeah, certainly. And hearing from inside Renault, there is Anthony Davidson. He is behind Jacques Villeneuve, which I think one or two drivers from Melbourne will tell you is not a great place to be. Although obviously Villeneuve this weekend, circumstances different. He's hoping for a much more competitive performance from his Sauber on the Michelin tyres. Davidson there. One or two voices, Martin, from inside Renault saying that apparently this weekend Fisichella has been obsessed with the engine, the fact that this is the second Grand Prix on this engine. He's been very careful, he's been upshifting a little bit earlier, he's not wanting to hammer the throttle quite as hard. They've tried to tell him it doesn't really make any difference. He's not going to make any difference to Alonso, but he feels that by protecting the car, he's going to have an advantage here this afternoon. Obviously time will tell.
Yeah, and he said in the briefing, as soon as I pressed the throttle, I thought, oh, it hasn't got as much power, and you're right, I think he's been overly concerned about that. As the Jordan of Katakayim.
That's Button. Button has had a spin, and he's now in front of Michael Schumacher, so Button has dropped down. He's got a trouble to beg your pardon. He's dropped down to 12th place. His engine looks like it's going to let go. There has been a question mark about that all weekend, and oil leak yesterday morning, which lost him an awful lot of time. So the first engine of this race to go, and that looks like one of the two. Bernard's is Preisacker. He took an engine change going into this Grand Prix, but obviously Button may well have considered that he should have done the same thing. There were question marks about Jensen's engine, and it's let him down, it seems, on lap 3.
It looked like Jensen was recovering from something, and maybe he's spilling some oil down there as well, which has helped the Minardi exit the racetrack. But Alonso's lead is 1.2. But look at this, Michael Schumacher back in 14th. They're on lap 3. He's 14 seconds. And that's Davidson as well. It's the second BAR with an engine problem. So it looks like we've lost both of them. At the moment, Button's 11 seconds slow in the first sector 2, cruising already. So both BAR Hondas, one out of the race and one, I suspect, about to be. Here's a replay of the start. You can see at the back the Jordan ducking around the slow starting Davidson. And at the front, it's line astern for the two Renaults, truly holding his own. And a good scrap left middle of your picture. I think it was Coulthard, Montoya and co on board then with Ralf Schumacher, and that's Mark Webber to our right. And let's see what happens. Watch him first time around. Neat, tidy Webber claims rightfully the inside line. And it's getting very tight in the middle of the pack, wasn't it?
You saw that Heidfeld and Barrichello were getting very close to the pit wall and run down to turn 1. Heidfeld had a very eventful start, so was Rubens Barrichello. Montoya involved with them as well. Heidfeld came out of it well though. Look at that, down this Button making the move on Kimi Raikkonen. We saw just a lap ago before problem struck for Jenson Button, who's now dropping right down the order, and he's stopped in fact out on the circuit. He and Davidson have stopped in the middle sector of the circuit. And Ted Kravitz, maybe tell us something about that.
Absolute despair down here right in the BAR garage. The mechanics were looking so good. Jenson had such a good opening lap. They had a feeling that there was going to be some kind of after effects of Jenson's oil leak on Friday. Jenson was so angry about that, he knew it would compromise his engine. But then Davidson to have what looks like an engine failure on that car too. Of course it has done the Australian Grand Prix in the hands of Takuma Sato, but that was a complete surprise. The look on the Honda guys' face are unbelievable. They're all completely inconsolable down here.
And the drivers will be too. Isn't it ironical there? That's the team that chose to pit early and put fresh engines in for this Grand Prix. And imagine Davidson, his golden opportunity to shine. Car didn't get off the line. Now the engine's cooked itself.
Terrible, terrible, crushing disappointment for Anthony Davidson. Another car going quite slowly down the back straight, just getting out of the air of the Ferrari. I think he's trying to, Massa, probably just trying to get some cool air into the radiators rather than follow Barrichello down the straight. But either way, they are in 11th and 12th places. We ride on board here with Felipe Massa. Some suggestion also that he might do what he did in Australia, try and do this race on a single pit stop. Certainly helped him in Australia, but he's quite a long way back at the moment, 17.5 seconds behind race leader Alonso at the moment on lap 5. Just tell you that it's Alonso Trulli 1.5 seconds behind, Fisichella is 2.8 seconds behind Fernando Alonso, his teammate, and it's Webber, Ralf Schumacher and Raikkonen. And look at this action.
This is when Jensen's engine starts to spit its fluids out. That'll be all over. Not only just the camera, of course, Massa's visor, you can see wipe that with the back of your glove. And Jensen then out of the race. And this is the sister car of Davidson, just about to launch itself too. All the pistons meet the valves and bits inside. It's a terrible mess. All the oil and water gets mixed up with the metallic parts, and you have to clean all the pipes and pumps. And it's a huge amount of work to put that car back into competitive condition.
A little bit unkind of the director there to suggest it was that man's fault, but certainly his reaction would say an awful lot. Honda engineers, they had a problem through the winter testing with getting reliability out of these Honda engines over what was going to be 1,200 plus kilometres the 2 race weekends. They didn't actually manage that, I believe, in the winter testing. Part of the reason I understand why they parked the cars just at the end of Melbourne is because they knew there was a new specification of engine available for the Malaysian Grand Prix that hopefully had much better reliability. And that's what they put into the cars at the beginning of this weekend. But I think it's back to the drawing board for those engineers now, as we complete lap 5.
What's Montoya up to? He's back in 10. He lapped, he's 2 seconds a lap off the pace. Michael Schumacher, lap 6, or the end of lap 5 actually, 21.5 seconds adrift. He's just cruising for the afternoon. He's making a point to that team, James, because that's just incredibly off the pace. He's going to be lapped comfortably if they just push on ahead at the front. I'm told they may not bring, or even try to bring, the new Ferrari to Bahrain and take the risks of a new car, because they think their problem is their tyres are just not in the zone at the moment. It depends on temperature and type of track conditions and surfaces, and that's the news I got just 5 minutes before coming to the comm box.
Well, if that is the case, it's a similar story to 2003. Remember, we had lots of different race winners, no hint of Ferrari domination that year, because Bridgestone slightly behind the 8 ball. Michelin had the upper hand that year. Last year, different story. Bridgestone bouncing back in spectacular fashion. Ferrari totally dominating the championship. But with really only Ferrari now, and the top team certainly using the Bridgestone tyre, the problem for them is they've done only 1/5 of the testing mileage that Michelin have done. And these tyres now have to last a whole 2 qualifying sessions and a Grand Prix. And you only find out what that's going to be like when you do lots of testing miles. So, the end of lap 6, race leader Fernando Alonso. His margin over Jarno Trulli grows by 1.2 seconds. Alonso putting the hammer down now, sensing an opportunity. Trulli's lap times stay the same. Alonso goes up a gear. Fisichella is behind Trulli. He's going to need to do something about this fairly soon. He's now 5 seconds behind his teammate. Webber is 4th, Ralf Schumacher is 5th, and Raikkonen is in 6th place.
Fisichella 1.5 seconds behind us. After that, Webber another 2 seconds.
Lap 9 of the Malaysian Grand Prix from Sepang circuit. Fernando Alonso extending his margin over the pursuing pack of Jarno Trulli and Giancarlo Fisichella. Now 4.5 seconds clear of Trulli. Fisichella dropping back as well. At last lap, Fisichella was 2 seconds slower than his teammate Fernando Alonso. So there's something going on there. That's quite an interesting situation. Starting to fall back into the clutches of Mark Webber now, who's under 2 seconds behind Fisichella, with Ralf Schumacher just over a second behind Webber, and Raikkonen 3 seconds behind Ralf Schumacher. There's Jenson Button. He is one of the 2 BAR drivers, both of whom retired from this Grand Prix. Both of whom appear to have engine problems. And Anthony Davidson standing in for Takuma Sato this weekend. Also, we've lost Patrick Freysacker. 17 cars still running there.
Jensen saying, if I read his lips correctly, what happened? Of course, in the car, you've just really got idiot lights and the basic information. Back in the garage, they've got all the telemetry and data acquisition, and they'll know exactly where the temperatures and pressures headed off to and what was happening with Jenson Button's engine. And, well, it's highly suspected that Jenson is looking to move in 2006. He wanted to move in 2005, didn't he, James? And his season has started off absolutely shocking. We've been used to so much reliability of late, especially since they brought the Parc Fermé regulations in, ironically, where the mechanics couldn't touch the cars after qualifying. But we've lost 3 cars already. Both the air Hondas out with apparent engine problems, and Freysacker went off into the gravel.
The big winner off the start was certainly Nick Heidfeld. We saw a lot of action from him on the run down to the first corner. Heidfeld was 10th on the grid. He moved up to 7th place now. Look at this. There he is attacking Kimi Raikkonen. That's the battle for 6th place. Heidfeld's on the move in this Grand Prix. Well, I mentioned a moment ago we lost Anthony Davidson. Louise Goodman, he must be gutted.
I think he is, James. Anthony, huge disappointment for the team, but massive disappointment for you.
Yeah, obviously it's a shame for the team, you know, but that's what these new engine regulations are for, to make it tough. And it is, I think this is going to definitely be a race of attrition, and I think we can definitely see a few more cars go out. Unfortunately, yeah, my first race will be a Honda, and not exactly what I wanted, but yeah, while it lasted, it was fun.
You're very philosophical about it. Don't you feel like going and kicking something?
I kind of waved my arm a bit aggressively, yeah, but that's about as far as I go.
Both engine failures by the looks of it?
I don't know yet. We have to wait and see.
Thanks, Anthony.
Before I got back.
Don't you go kicking our Louise, you'll be in trouble down there. But Anthony says it's to make it tough. It's actually supposedly about cost saving. Although, of course, that engine isn't on its second Grand Prix, it's on its first Grand Prix. And what we don't want, we're going to need a spectacle, we need a show. We don't need cars dropping out in the name of cost saving if they're, what they're really saving is tyres and petrol if they're not going around the racetrack.
Well, it's certainly a hot topic of debate at the moment, the cost saving initiative, and certainly 1 or 2 people within Honda saying that this engine, developing this engine, and also the V8 2.4 for next year, the cost of that, they're going to run a B team for 3 seasons, what it's costing to do these engines. But certainly, lasting 2 Grand Prix undoubtedly makes the cost of customer engines much cheaper for the smaller teams like Red Bull Racing, Sauber, Minardi and Jordan. So that is to be welcomed. Fernando Alonso, though, has just done the fastest lap of the Grand Prix so far on lap 10. We're on working lap 11 now, but that was a 1:36.4, and he's at least half a second a lap quicker than Trulli or Fisichella, who have fallen away from him now. Ted, what can you tell us?
Bit of news from Minardi. You mentioned Patrick Freysacker spinning off. Bad luck for him, he actually spun off on the BAR's oil. It's a shame because he was pretty good this weekend. He was quicker than the others all weekend, so shame for the young Austrian.
Indeed. And Alonso, this reminds me of Hungary 2003, wasn't it, where Alonso won and just decimated the field, and it looked easy for him when he was really hooked up. Got a 6.3 second lead. Finally now, Trulli and Fisichella have got into the 36s.
Turn 6 in 5th gear is a little better for crankcase pressure, mate. Turn 6 in 5th gear is a little bit better for crankcase pressure.
Okay, so they've got, that's interesting, they're clearly watching a parameter with regard to oil pressure, crankcase pressure. I'd imagine they want him to run a longer gear through there. And which corner was that? Turn 5, so yeah, that'll be a longer gear that they want him to run. And in 5th gear just to keep the revs down, probably in that zone.
Very interesting. I love this team radio. It's really working, isn't it? So interesting to get an insight from the horse's mouth during the course of the Grand Prix. What a lot it adds to the quality of the coverage. Alonso then 6.5 seconds clear, but Trulli and Fisichella, or certainly Trulli, responding. He's just virtually matched the lap time of Alonso on that lap. Fisichella dropping away a little bit at the moment. If he is protecting his car, it's making him 9, he's 10 seconds now behind Alonso. Webber's still 4th, Ralf Schumacher 5th, Raikkonen 6th, Heidfeld going well in 7th, attacking Raikkonen at every opportunity, matching him for lap times. Coulthard is in 8th, the final points position at the moment. Great start to the season for the Red Bull Racing team, and Coulthard has got himself in front of Christian Klien. Then it's Montoya in 10th place, Barrichello 11th.
Yeah, I think the positive surprise is Webber and Heidfeld in the 2 Williams. And Heidfeld's having a cracking race, really racy on the first lap, getting himself ahead of Coulthard and Klien, and maintained around that position. And really, they're in the 37, very low 37s, and going well. There are 2 world champions in this field. Michael Schumacher, he is 35 seconds behind on lap 12 in 13th place, and just behind him, Jacques Villeneuve, who's 38 seconds behind. What a grim afternoon they're having. I think Louise has found Jenson Button.
Jenson, this was always going to be a tough race for the engines, but I guess you're expected to get a bit further than that.
Yeah, I mean, engineering an engine to do 3 laps is not hard. It's the whole race, and you know, compared to last year, we've made a huge step back in every area, it looks like, at the moment.
Do you think this is a repeat of the problem that you had yesterday?
I think it's a good possibility. You know, I had oil on the rear tyres, that's why I spun off, and, but it's just not good enough because we're quick. That's the annoying thing, you know. Our pace was very good, and for the amount of fuel we had on board, it's very disappointing, but it's got to change, and I don't think it's going to change straight away. That's the only worry.
It's always disappointing to go out, but you're angry.
I'm very angry. I'm very angry. But, there you go.
Not often you'll hear a driver deliver, very consciously deliver a line like that, or several lines like that. In fact, strong message coming out of Jenson Button there on a number of fronts, but at least he said his pace was good, and the car felt good while it was running, so he clearly has got some fundamental speed in the car. And surprising, he said, I don't think it's going to change any time soon. And I wonder what he's referring to there.
Well, he certainly wasn't putting it in code, was he? His message is quite clear and simple. I think, obviously, the reliability of the Honda engine is an issue, and engines do tend to be something that take a little bit of time to sort out. There's the 2 Red Bull Racing entries. Great to see them. What a spark of life they put into that team since taking over from Jaguar Racing at the start of this season. A tremendously flamboyant campaign they've got of marketing to support this programme. And well, welcome to Formula 1 then, welcome in every sense. Lap 13 then, Alonso just set another new fastest lap, a 1:36.026, I beg your pardon. He's flying at the front, is Fernando Alonso. Jarno Trulli is second. Giancarlo Fisichella's lap times are up and down all over the charts at the moment. He now falls to 10.5 seconds behind Alonso in 3rd. Webber's 4th. Ralf Schumacher is 5th. 6th is Raikkonen, and 7th still Heidfeld, with Coulthard still in 8th place.
Just try and catch up with Trulli. You're 3.3 behind. If you can push up to it now, you can use 1st gear in the turn 9 if you want.
Lap 16 of the Malaysian Grand Prix. Fernando Alonso continues to lead this race, continues to push extremely hard at the front. Keeping up with him at the moment is Jarno Trulli, 7 seconds behind him in Toyota. We saw in Melbourne a couple of weeks ago that Trulli ran comfortably in second place behind Prissy Keller in the opening stint, but then after the first pit stop he went backwards as his rear tyre started to feel the pain. Interesting to see what happens to him in the remainder of this Grand Prix. Giancarlo Fisichella's lap times are a bit up and down at the moment. He's dropped to 11 seconds behind Alonso, but just a moment ago he was given a message from the pits. He needed to push a little bit. He's dropped back too far, according to them, behind Jarno Trulli. He put on a real push.
The third sector is decreasing.
Third sector too slow for the Sauber team. They want Villeneuve to push as well. So he too, along with Fisichella, being told to get on with it a bit here this afternoon. It hasn't really worked for Fisichella. He's dropped a little bit further behind Trulli at the end of that last lap. Mark Webber is 3.5 seconds behind him with Ralf Schumacher on the toe. And then Kimi Räikkönen is a man to watch, Martin, in 6th place. Just 3 seconds behind Ralf Schumacher, 6 behind Webber. But we expect him to go quite a bit longer than those two. He'll be looking to leapfrog them in the first round of pit stops, try and get himself up into 4th place.
Yeah, Räikkönen, I think, is stealing himself for a podium slot and opportunity. And a bit further down the field, you've got the 2 Red Bulls, Montoya, Barrichello, Massa, and Michael Schumacher, who's now 42 seconds adrift. They're all fighting over the smaller points, unless there's a lot of dramas up front. Cars getting lapped already. Another new fastest lap by Fernando Alonso. He's 11 seconds ahead of his teammate, Fisichella, after 16 laps. Well, that doesn't take much working out, best part of 8 tenths per lap faster. No wonder they're giving Fizzy the hurry up.
Yeah, there was a feeling Prissy was carrying a little bit more fuel, but he's certainly not carrying that much more fuel than is Alonso. That was a stunning pole lap by Alonso to grab the pole position, and he's making the most of it. He really needed to come here this weekend, having seen Fisichella take the goodies in Melbourne 2 weeks ago. He managed to fight through onto the podium, get a valuable 6 points for 3rd place. When I spoke to him on Thursday, he said, I don't even consider Australia. All I did there was a rescue operation. And here, I've come here to win this race. He's gone out there and he's grabbing it by the throat.
The reason they go faster little by little, obviously the drivers are just tuning into the exact track conditions. Very little they can change on the car in terms of handling. They're using up. That's delayed transmission on the radio.
Okay, mate, rear pressures look a little high. Do you want me to take 0.02 out? Yeah, biggest problem traction.
Right, I wonder what problems the others have got then, because he's absolutely annihilating them. Traction, he says, the rear tyres are spinning. The team have got, on the telemetry, the team know all 4 tyre pressures back in the pits, and they're asking him, does he want 0.2 of a bar, which is quite a lot, taken out of the tyre when they come into the pit stop with the little gizmos that they can use? And he said, yes, give me that. The biggest problem is the back end of the car. The balance generally is okay in the high speed, medium to high speed. The problem I've got is traction. So now the Renault team will set their little monitors that Ted will tell you about in the pit stop to just adjust his tyre pressure. Remember, a tyre is like a spring. There's no shock absorber, so it's not a particularly well-controlled spring, and it's the tyre pressure is critical on how that tyre is presented to the road and how it reacts to bumps and loads and lateral forces that are put through the contact pouch.
There's quite a big lock-up there for Rubens Barrichello, and when you do a lock-up like that, you've got to be careful you don't get a flat spot on the tyre. Makes it, instead of a round shape, makes it like a 50p piece. And the vibrations from that at over 200 miles an hour, which they hit down the straight here in Sepang, would certainly wobble your eyesight a little bit and knock your fillings out. So I hope Barrichello hasn't given himself a problem. He is running at the moment in 11th place, 40 seconds behind the race leader. He's in clear air though, he's 6 seconds behind Juan Montoya. Had a little bit of a nibble at him in the opening laps, but since then he hasn't been able to get close. So that is the pace of Barrichello in clear air. Look at this though, the Jordan's rather getting in the way of Mark Webber, finally sees him and gets out of the way, and there is a Toyota behind. Webber's lost a little bit there. Ralf Schumacher much closer to him now. This is a battle for 4th place.
Yes, that helped Ralf Schumacher a lot, didn't it? It's put him now nicely in sight of of Mark Webber. Kimi Raikkonen just 3 seconds behind them. He's going to get caught up by the yellow Jordan sometime probably down into turn 1. And look at Heidfeld going, suddenly, truly picks up his pace and matches Alonso's time and realises he's just got to get on with it now. Both now in the 1 minute 35.
I tell you what, Martin, getting stuck behind that Jordan of Thiago Monteiro really cost Fisichella more than anybody else. He lost 2 seconds to Alonso just getting stuck behind that Jordan. That's really expensive for him. He's now 15 seconds behind Alonso, but Trulli's the man on the move on lap 19 as we get our first pit visitor, Christian Klien, in the Red Bull racing car, who's starting to get into the pit window then. Any time between now and about lap 27 for most of them.
Yeah,
Quite a slug of fuel going in there.
This will go, the tyres looking ugly out there. I noticed even on Kimi Raikkonen's car, look, they're all struggling to get past the Jordan, but they're really, I think the Red Bulls are going to be struggling on pace now to keep in the points position. They're going to have a real fight on their hands with Montoya, Barrichello, Massa and Michael Schumacher.
Well, Klien coming in was good news for the Ferraris. Rubens Barrichello and Michael Schumacher, they should be able to leapfrog him there. And I imagine Coulthard will be coming in not too distant future. Very cool, confident David Coulthard going into second qualifying. Felt he had the pace to beat Klien even though he could carry more fuel. Here's a look at Alonso. What's going on here?
Just a fraction though, nothing too dramatic. He will, he wouldn't have been any wider, but he'll take a right old slice out of the under tray and just give him a little hurry up and a little, hey, come on, pay attention, watch yourself. He will know for the first time that his lead has stopped growing. Suddenly, Trulli is nibbling back. It's down to 7.9 seconds now. And he's pushing a little bit harder.
I think he must be getting quite close to his first pit stop here this afternoon. This is lap 20, where most people expected the Renaults to be making their first stop around about this time. No sign of anything activity in the pit lane at the moment for anybody really. And well, it's just the interesting thing from Renault's point of view is what do they think Trulli's going to do this afternoon? We saw him fade. Here is a Toyota pit stop getting ready. We saw Trulli fade after the first round of pit stops in Melbourne. His pace here, as it was in Melbourne, is pretty much on the same level as Alonso. So what will happen now to Jarno Trulli?
Coulthard said that he's got more fuel than Klien. He got quite a bit more, but we'll see when he comes in the pits. But it looks like Trulli could be the first of the leading runners to blink and need to come in, which will put a smile on the face of the Renault boys. I think the most interesting thing after that is when the Williams and particularly Kimi Raikkonen and the McLaren, when do they come in? And we're starting to get into that zone. It's going to be between 18 and sort of 26, James, would you say, when the whole field makes its stop.
It's going to be very close if Trulli is the first man to make the pit stop, whenever it is. It's going to be very close for him with Raikkonen. Kimi Raikkonen just 17 seconds behind him, and that means Raikkonen will probably be in front of him after this first round of stops. Ralf Schumacher it is, the first of the Toyotas to come in.
Somebody behind him, and the Williams of Heidfeld behind him too, so they're pitting quite early. Coulthard continues. No, Coulthard is yet to complete this final sector. He pits too, so 3 cars in then at the end of lap 20.
Yeah. Montero as well, who was getting in a few people's way before this round of stops. Heidfeld been very racy in the opening stages. The rear tyres of that car don't look too bad. There's a long way to go. 36 laps those tyres have still got to do as Heidfeld comes out. And he will rejoin just behind Michael Schumacher. And well, it was after a pit stop in Melbourne that those two came together, took each other out of the Grand Prix. And over in Germany, ever since then, there's been an enormous amount of flack for Michael Schumacher in the German media. Some of them calling him Rambo at one point. They do like to exaggerate a little bit, the tabloids over in Germany. But nevertheless, it's a bit of a cause célèbre, and he has come in for a lot of negative publicity over there. Finally, I will understand, was moved to issue a small apology to Heidfeld during the drivers' meeting on Friday afternoon. So that episode is parked away in the past. Into the pits comes the race leader on lap 21.
Did didn't really attack that speed line, but he's got a cushion, he doesn't need to take risks, and 10 is down there.
Indeed, and the Renault boys are waiting for him. They've got the pressure adjusters, they take the dust caps on, put the pressure adjusters on, just like we said. It's just like in your garage forecourt, exactly the same. Good stop, the fuel hose comes off. Oh, that's very close with the Jordan on the exit for Alonso.
Yeah, we saw that, the Jordan just in front, they're very nearly hit. Trulli is in as well. And look at him, he's feeling really racy. He's got the tyres pointed back out to the pit lane. He wants to get on with this one this afternoon. He's really in the mood for it.
Yeah, and Trulli's tyres didn't look too bad either. And obviously the Jordan would have got out of Alonso's way, would not have really held him out because they're all on the same speed limiter. That's going to hold Montoya badly, isn't it, going into there?
Montoya 6th. So Trulli rejoins in 5th place. Raikkonen is in front of him, as I suggested he would be. Of course, we now have to find out how long Raikkonen is going to stay out before he makes his first pit stop. This is the time then. Trulli fat with fuel. The cars that have just come in will be slower now in this phase. This is the moment for Fisichella, but the gap was just so large. It was 13 seconds. To Alonso before Alonso made that stop, and that's not, he can't make that up, however much fuel he's got here.
Correction to the rear tyre pressures and take away front wing, give you 0.4% less front wing, or would you prefer 0.6% less? That's okay, that's okay.
I don't think he quite got that question. The question is 0.6% aero split front to rear. And he just said, yeah, just do it. You make the mind up. I'm busy driving at the moment. But it was a very fair question. And but Fizzy not quite fully understanding it. Pretty understandable, really.
So let's take a look at what they actually do. We're expecting them to make some adjustments. The front wing, nothing yet on this side of the car. Can't see the other side. The rear, they'll adjust the tyre pressures. He was saying that they've got too much oversteer. That's where the back of the car pushes out around the corner, snaps out. That's Mark Webber making his stop. He was up into 2nd place behind Fisichella at that point, but of course they rejoin now behind Alonso and Trulli. So Kimi Raikkonen now leads the Grand Prix. There's Webber and there's Barrichello, who's in 7th place. So he slots in just in front of Barrichello. Michael Schumacher hasn't stopped yet. He is in 9th place behind his brother, who has stopped. That's not good news for Michael Schumacher. It is good news for Rubens Barrichello, though. He's got Juan Montoya, who's yet to make a pit stop in front of him, and then Jarno Trulli. So it looks like Barrichello's been making some progress. Michael Schumacher's struggling to make progress once again this afternoon. And we haven't seen the leader. Again, we believe it to be Kimi Raikkonen, with Fernando Alonso 3.5 seconds behind him now on lap 23.
It looks like it's slightly easier for the refuelers to lift those great big tubes around that are full of gas, of course, doesn't it? Now that the car's not going up and down in the pit stop, the car's much more stationary for them, and they do appear to be much cleaner on their refills.
To remind you of how this works, the cars, their first pit stop, that's how far they're going to race on the fuel that they carried right throughout the 2nd qualifying session this morning. The Saturday qualifying session now is on low fuel, and on Sunday morning they put in the fuel they want to go into the race with. And what happened this morning then is that Raikkonen put in more fuel than the cars in front of him on the grid. He didn't seem all that quick. Part of the reason for that was the fuel. But I can see McLaren mechanics, I believe, out in the pit lane, and Montoya comes into the pits from 5th place.
Yeah, but look at Raikkonen's just put in a new fastest lap of the race by some 0.4 of a second from doing mid to late 36s and a low 35. Where did he pull that one out of the bag from? Raikkonen definitely hauling himself up into podium contention, and I think Montoya's a bit too far back for that. We'll find out as this race unfolds.
Yeah, the reason Montoya is too far back, he made mistakes in yesterday's qualifying session and again today's qualifying session. So a few niggly errors for Montoya put him behind his teammate. He started in 11th place on the grid with Raikkonen up in 7th. So that'll be annoying to him for sure, because Raikkonen's definitely a podium candidate here this afternoon. Depends on, look at this stuff. Great battle here between the Ferrari of Rubens Barrichello and the Williams of Mark Webber. This is the scrap for 6th place.
But this is an important phase. Barrichello with the much lighter Ferrari now. He's on a different strategy altogether, a longer haul, and he knows he can't afford to lose time as Webber gets back up to speed with a heavy fuel load. Getting all racy, there's no way through there at turns 5 and 6, where he was. There just isn't really a braking zone there to make the difference.
Well, the Ferrari technical director, Ross Brawn, as McLaren get ready for Raikkonen, he's into the pits. He told me that one of the problems, Martin, with coming into the pits here, there's a lot of dirt on the pit apron. It gets on your tyres, and when you go out, it sticks to it. The grip doesn't come back for a little while. Do little adjustments, any sign of anything much?
Yeah, bit of front wing. We don't know if it goes up and down when they do that, but I suspect as the race unfolds, they're all starting to struggle with oversteer, the back end of the car sliding. Is that a
Fisichella. So he's done it. Kimi Raikkonen has jumped Mark Webber. That's what he wanted to do by running long in the first stint, and he's also jumped Ralf Schumacher as well. Barrichello's got in front of Ralf Schumacher as Michael Schumacher pits. Not particularly late into this Grand Prix. Not a particularly large amount of fuel going in. He's 2 stopping this afternoon, and he's not in this race at all. He was 30 seconds behind the race leader before he made that stop.
I'm told the pit lane Raikkonen put more front wing on, and therefore, just to give him a bit more on the nose, reduce the amount of understeer. We haven't seen much of his car, so I don't really know what the balance looks like, although of course it's what it feels like that matters. And that is Raikkonen off the track, and he's got a right rear puncture. He is now allowed to change that under the regulations, but he can't refuel at the same time, but he doesn't really need to. He's just been in the pits. That's compromised. Well, that's wrecked his afternoon, hasn't it? Especially if that comes off the rim and starts damaging the bodywork. You've got to sort of be so careful with that. You don't really want to hurry up too much. Look, smoking away. It looks like he's near enough to the pits to get away with it.
I don't think he is. He's just finished sector 2. It happened in the first sector, and so this is a very expensive problem for Kimi Raikkonen. One Montoya goes past him. He was in 10th place. That's how much Raikkonen has lost. I was talking about the rubbish and bits and pieces in the pit lane. I wonder if that had anything to do with this, because certainly there was a feeling he would pick up on the tyres, and it takes a while for the grip to come back again once you come out of a pit stop. Here comes Rubens Barrichello, a very feisty stint for him, and he comes in from 6th place.
Yes, it is. I wonder if Barrichello, if Raikkonen can get all the way back without the sidewalls, but when the tyre drags, it just heats up massively, and then you get separation between the tread and the side. Well, there it is. He's just getting to that phase now. He's got to push really, otherwise no, he has. He has lost the carcass of the tyre. Is he going to do any damage to the bodywork? He might just get away with this, but those flailing bits start nibbling away at your rear wing. He's just going to make it. Trouble is, when you get there, you've got no brakes. All the weight distribution of the car's completely out of kilter. Ted is receiving it.
He's coming towards me. If it is a puncture, it must have happened just as he left the pit lane, because they looked at the tyres at the pit stop and they were all fine. So they take off the damaged wheel. They're having a look at it and see if it's okay. I think it is. They put the wheel on. The new tyre is from yesterday's practice. Kimi gets away. There's a bit of damage to the floor just before the rear tyre, but not enough to get him out of the race.
Yes, and they have to put a tyre on that has done as much, if not more mileage, if they've got them, than the tyre that they took off, is my understanding. But Raikkonen back into the race, and there he goes. And it obviously spat him off the road, didn't it, when the tyre let go in a high-speed corner. And I tell you, there goes the carcass then. And it's right onto the racing line as well.
It's like going down the motorway when a truck has had a blowout. You've got to dodge all the horrible little mucky black bits, make sure you don't hit anything too solid at too high a speed. Very difficult then for the drivers who follow. Catastrophic disaster for his race then, for Kimi Raikkonen. That will push him quite a long way back. That is the top 8 at the moment then. Alonso, Trulli, Fisichella, Webber, Ralf Schumacher, Heidfeld, Barrichello, Montoya. Coulthard down to 9th and out of the points now. The Red Bull Racing starting to fade a little bit, as Martin thought they might, with the tyre wear issue starting to play into their hands a little bit.
Yeah. Coulthard 7 tenths ahead of 1.8 showing now ahead of clean, so they've got their work cut out to score some World Championship points because of the strategies of some of the other cars. Alonso leads then, he's on lap 27, he's 12 seconds clear of Trulli, made more time up in the pit stop. Fisichella's 3rd, he's closing Trulli down, but just had a scruffy lap in the 1 minute 39s.
Giancarlo, you lose a huge amount of time in the middle sector. I don't know what's going on in the middle sector, but that's where you need to concentrate. You lose a massive, massive amount of time. 1 second in the middle sector, nearly 1.5 seconds.
Okay, Jacques, I think there's not a lot to do there.
Half distance in the Malaysian Grand Prix at Sepang. There's Christian Horner, the new team principal of Red Bull Racing, formerly Jaguar. Christian Klein, one of his drivers, just saw lifting his left hand up into the cockpit, but it was to cool it down or just release his fingers, I'm not quite sure, but it wasn't on the pit straight, it was on the back straight. So an odd gesture, they're all looking at each other quizzically. Klein at the moment is in 10th place, still leading this Grand Prix as Alonso from Trulli and Fisichella, but we've lost Jack Villeneuve just a moment ago, and this is how it happened, Martin.
Yeah, it's down into turn one, heavy braking, just starts his downshift and around it goes. Overcorrected really, got a tank slapper on and beached the car. Jack with his traditionally baggy overalls bring back. Come underneath our commentary box at some point to drag him up here, but not sure how we'll get him round, but I don't think anyone to talk to us either, unfortunately. He's on board with Christian Klein in the Red Bull. He's looking at his teammate in front of him, Coulthard. They're 9th and 10th at the moment. And I wonder if they're sniffing a point or two again this afternoon. And man is going very slowly. It's Giancarlo Fisichella in 3rd place. He's now had 4 consecutive laps, a second or so, maybe more sometimes, off the pace. So Fisichella struggling at this stage of the Grand Prix.
And if you're wondering whether fuel's got anything to do with it, I don't think it has. It was only stationary for half a second less than Alonso. So fuel-wise, there's nothing much to choose between them. Well, look at this amazing piece of action going on in front of Christian Klein. Lots of people having problems getting around that Jordan. Ted Kravitz is down the side. What can you tell us?
Yeah, I'm going to check out that Fisichella story in just a moment, but Villeneuve hasn't said anything to his team either. He just acknowledged that he'd spun the car and he'd been parking it, but they tell me that he has had problem under braking at that point all weekend.
Yeah, just all the forces work together, the car snatches sideways, so I think he just actually overcorrected it as much as anything. Coulthard losing out quite bad. He got out of the car in Melbourne and said, I'm sure there were 6 Jordans out there. I could see him keep passing them all afternoon. But they're trying to recover the carcass of the right rear of Kimi Raikkonen that failed on him just after his pit stop and really put him out of contention. He's still down in 13th place. Now 86.6 seconds and not lapping particularly quickly. That's taking the wind out of his sails, James.
Certainly has. Clean then closing up behind teammate Coulthard. He's less than a second behind him. Coulthard battling with Rubens Barrichello. That's for the final point of the afternoon in 8th place. Here's Michael Schumacher siding past Narain Carter Keynes Jordan. Schumacher is down in 11th place, a full 1 minute behind race leader Alonso. So echoes, as you said earlier, of the Hungarian Grand Prix of 2003 where Alonso rocked away and Michael Schumacher was lapped by the race winner Alonso. I wonder that'll happen here this afternoon. Long way to go still. Now Jacques Villeneuve is talking live with Louise Goodman.
Jacques, the team was just telling us that you've been having problems with that corner all weekend. Like, has it just caught you out there, or was there something else?
Just that corner. I lock front wheels all the time, and if I just try to be a little bit more aggressive and push, then I lock the rear. So I'm not sure what to do.
This car is just not doing it for you, yes, is it?
Oh, I'm having a hard time with this car.
Thanks, Jacques.
Difficult times for Jacques Villeneuve, and shame nobody wants to see that. His teammate Massa's in 12th place, some 63 seconds off the lead. You're on board now with David Coulthard hunting down the Ferrari. Red Bull hunting down the Ferrari of Barrichello. Didn't expect to be saying that this year, did you?
Well, it's nice to be saying it, there's no doubt about that. It's very nice to be saying anything, nothing against Ferrari, but it's good to see them getting a fight this year. And I think they're going to have quite a fight for the remainder of this season. It's only the second of 19 Grand Prix. There's clearly some work to do. Ferrari have done their 1,500 miles of testing on their new car. Barrichello and Schumacher go from this race straight back to Europe to test it.
Push to pass, I think they said. He can raise the revs. He has a number of opportunities in the race. He's allowed a certain number where he can raise the revs to try to get past that Ferrari. He's got to get through there if they want to score some points this afternoon. Quite clearly, the two Red Bull cars are now significantly faster than Barrichello. He's backed them all into the 1 minute 39, where the Red Bulls were doing 1 minute 37, so Barrichello struggling terribly. And they're telling Coulthard, up the revs and try and pass him down the straights.
Well, another guy who needs to up things is Giancarlo Fisichella. He's now falling into the clutches of Webber and Ralf Schumacher. This is going to be the battle for third place in this Grand Prix, the final podium position, and both Webber and Ralf Schumacher look like they've got a good car under them with good pace. Webber is comfortably in front of Ralf Schumacher. Ralf hasn't really had a chance of passing him, but Fisichella's lap times have not been impressive. He's still 2 seconds a lap slower than Alonso in the other Renault, and I think Fisichella's got some problems. There's Flavio, look how hot it is. Even Flavio is showing the signs of sweat.
Ted, you've got some news for us.
Yeah, Dan Renault, Fisichella has got massive oversteer problems. He's saying he just can't commit the car in the high-speed corners. The back end keeps snapping away. He has no confidence in the car in the high-speed corners, round the back turns 12, 13 and 14, and he's just losing bags of time. Be sure to see that they will take some pressure out of those tyres in the next pit stop.
Yeah, they did so in the first. Of course, they asked him if he wanted a bit out of the tyres and also changing the front balance aerodynamically by 0.4 or 0.6, which he didn't fully answer. And wow, Webber getting very racy there and slightly impatient because now they're all being held up with Fisichella's poor grip and pace. Webber's front tyre, in fact, all the Michelin front tyres have got 2 or 3 lines. And look, he's coming under pressure from Ralf Schumacher, who's gone right up the inside. They touch wheels, bits and pieces falling off, and Webber retakes the position. And look, who's going through there? Heidfeld. Did Heidfeld make it? He certainly made it past Ralf Schumacher. Now he's right behind his teammate.
He's having a go down the run to the first corner. He's got it. Webber tries to resist. Nick Heidfeld is going to make it stick. Webber is not having any of it. That's a very angry Aussie in that cockpit. He doesn't like what Ralf Schumacher did to him into the final corner. Webber fights back. Ralf Schumacher goes past Heidfeld. Heidfeld has found himself in the middle of a dogfight.
Good driving there, brilliant driving by everybody. The Williams guys were going mad in the pits because they just compromised themselves. And now Heidfeld's gone steaming up the inside. Can he keep it on the outside of the track? Yes, he does. And Ralf Schumacher, from a barging session with Webber, ends up falling back behind Heidfeld too, who's having a great race.
Great racing here at Sepang, absolutely from nowhere. Suddenly, these two, Webber and Ralf Schumacher, were catching Fisichella. They were all thinking about how they're going to get past him. While Webber was thinking about that, Ralf Schumacher ran up the inside of him into the final corner. And let's not forget, these two touched here last year, so there's quite a bit of history. Let's take another look at it.
Yeah, Ralf Schumacher was always running into other Williams. When he was a Williams driver, him and Kevin Montoya, of course, look at that, just drifted, four-wheel drifted into the side of him, and Webber did the smart thing, just kept the car straight. And this is now down at turn 1, where Webber and Heidfeld started to squabble, and that allowed Ralph back through. Heidfeld cleverly just repositioned himself for a run up the inside into turn 4. He's got great straight line speed, has Nick Heidfeld, but Williams really running nicely in this race.
That was great stuff. Thumbs up from Sam Michael. We give it a thumbs up too. Good racing. Both the Williams drivers and Ralph Schumacher, formerly a Williams driver, of course. That looked a bit audacious to me for Ralph Schumacher. He's carrying an awful lot of speed when he tried to pass Webber there.
That's all right. That was all right. He set it up there, and Webber left him just about enough space. I think that's fair game. It was marginal, but okay in the end. Look, the two Red Bulls still queued up behind Barrichello, and that's allowing Michael Schumacher and Felipe Massa to start closing in on them as well. Barrichello horribly slow at this stage, 3 seconds a lap slow of the leader's pace. Coulthard just hasn't got enough run to get a look into the braking zone.
Well, that incident with the two Williams drivers and Ralph Schumacher has allowed a little breathing space for Giancarlo Fisichella in third place. He's now got 2.5 seconds advantage over Mark Webber. So he'll use that to have a little breather, but he knows they'll be back again soon. There doesn't seem to be any damage to Webber's car as a result of that contact with Ralph Schumacher. We'll keep an eye out for that. We're looking at Barrichello, final points position in 8th place at the moment. He's got one Montoya in front of him in 7th. One of the Red Bulls going down the outside of him. He's got it. David Coulthard passes Rubens Barrichello, can clearly get past as well. Barrichello's struggling with the car at this stage.
Yeah, Barrichello went wide in turn 4 and DC punished him around the outside. Otherwise, I think he was going to have to get rude anytime soon, because if he wants points, he's just going to have to start muscling his way through, as Ralph Schumacher did. Luckily for him, and young Clean coming down the inside, and he's easily getting the gong for most improved driver of 2005, isn't he? Christian Clean, and realised just at the right moment it wasn't going to work and did something about it. But Barrichello under siege then, and that releases Coulthard has given him a breathing space. Coulthard's already got in front of Rubens. That's how much he's struggling. And now I can see a situation coming on where Rubens is going to be, normally it's the first and second we used to say this, but Rubens is going to have to be moved out of the way and not hold Michael up if they want to score some points. And clear then, Rubens really almost didn't bother to fight that, did he? He knew it was inevitable.
He's got no pace. The message of this race will be winging its way back to Italy and over to Japan, where Bridgestone are based. Ferrari and Bridgestone have got some problems here in the hot climate of Malaysia. Barrichello though having another little look back at Clean, more out of pride than anything else. Clean seems to have the pace to resist. Yes, he does through 1 and 2. But a little bit of a wobble there for Clean. Does that allow Barrichello a sniff of it? Good dogfight here, Barrichello, good racer. Michael Schumacher, look how much trouble he's having getting his car to go around the corners with Felipe Massa right behind him.
Michael Schumacher, the meat in a Brazilian driver sandwich at the moment. None of them really with any kind of sparkling pace there. Barrichello at 141 compared to the leader on 136 last time around. The pair of them are 70 seconds off the lead now. And the next man to pass him will be Michael Schumacher, and it's a no-brainer. He should just let him go through. Strictly, they can't accept team orders, but he shouldn't need any. Rubens, quite clearly, he's on the softer tyre. They've got to pay horribly. They're just not working for him. There's no pace, no grip, no confidence, and therefore he has no chance.
Well, we just cut away from that, but I fancy Michael Schumacher will be having a go at Rubens Barrichello. There's Mark Webber, and he's back now on the tail of Giancarlo Fisichella, so I called it a breathing space, but it was only a brief breathing space for Fisichella, because Webber is on the attack, and this is for podium position, remember. Webber has never stood on a Formula 1 podium. That's what he joined the Williams team to do, to stand down there as often as possible, and he's got Nick Heidfeld right behind him, who looks very comfortable at the moment behind his team leader.
Ralph Schumacher's dropped away, and by 3/4 tenths a lap now from the two Williams. So after that lunge, I don't know if he had any bits knocked off, and finally Barrichello comes in, and he would be aching for a new set of tyres at this stage. He would normally enjoy and receive, and they're just cranking on a bundle of front wing, it seems, and Rubens Barrichello then with a lot of understeer. As the tyres go down, you lose the depth of the rubber. What generates a lot of the heat in a racing tyre is the way that the rubber moves around, and as soon as it starts getting thin, you lose that temperature. And I'd be surprised if front wing gets the job done once you've gone through that zone.
The air temperature here in Sepang is 35 degrees, the track temperature 49 degrees. The hottest Grand Prix of the year and the hardest without a shadow of a doubt, particularly as these engines have already done one Grand Prix in Australia for most of these runners. We've lost already Anthony Davidson and Jenson Button to engine-related problems, we understand, but all the rest of these guys are getting very close. We're in uncharted territory really in terms of engine life and engine mileage. 20 laps to go, how many more engines will let go before the end? Certainly pretty impressive so far, we've not lost more. But look at this, this is a situation that's got a long way to go.
And this will be Coulthard, a replay of Coulthard passing Rubens, who gets out of shape under braking. Coulthard with the balance and grip just to duck inside of him. And a replay then of, is that a replay? Yeah, it's a replay of Barakella's pit stop, where the fueling hose was reluctant to come out and they were cracking a front wing change in.
Colossal frustration, new set of tyres couldn't be used. It's a very different style of Formula 1 racing now. Look at Fisichella, he's at the back of the car, fucking around there. Good illustration of what Ted was talking about. He's struggling at the back of the car, stepping out in the corner with the ball oversteer. And it's a bad condition because it tends to put a lot of heat into the rear tyres and makes them lose their grip and their performance.
I think we're going to see this disparate stuff. I mean, Fisichella running third is 2 seconds a lap slower than teammate Alonso, who you're now watching, who's leading. And he's 37 seconds adrift. As soon as the balance goes, I think this, James, is where they've lost a little bit of downforce and some aerodynamic efficiency this year, where they're starting to get punished. And watch this. This is Webber's gone through, up into third place. We're on board with Nick Heidfeld, who's fifth, and he just watched the move. And looks like Fisichella's going to have another run down the outside into turn 14 in the hairpin. Will Webber have his second contact there? He will. And Webber is out. So is Fisichella, probably. Webber out of the Grand Prix. Heidfeld will go through. Has Fisichella kept the engine running? No. The steering wheel comes off. And finally then, Mark Webber runs out of luck in that final turn, right in the pit entry. There was a lot of rubbish down from Kimi Raikkonen's puncture earlier in the race, and Flavio Briatore choosing to use some English words there instead of Italian ones to describe his dissatisfaction. And that would have come down to earth with quite a bump for Fizzy. And well, we'll have to see a replay, but I thought it seemed fair enough to come up the inside and have a look.
Well, Webber walked over to where Fisichella was, but Fisichella ran away from him, and this is why.
Yeah, well, Mark braked very late on the outside, but Fizzy locked his wheels and did a Ralph on him, and Mark kind of put his car in a dangerous place there, you have to say, by steaming down the outside. He might have been better. Look at all the rubbish on the track, and Fizzy's gone in too hot, drifts into the side of Webber, and it's difficult to pin blame on that. I think Mark put his car in a dangerous position and didn't allow for any margin. He knew he was squeezing Fisichella and didn't allow him any room just in case.
Didn't have an awful lot of room to go, so it's a pretty wide track here, 15 metres in place, one of the widest circuits in Formula 1, particularly that corner there, but Webber certainly managed to turn right enough, and the two collided, and that's a bit of a gift really for Nick Heidfeld, who moves up into third place now. Ralf Schumacher into fourth place, Montoya fifth, Coulthard up into sixth. Once again, the two Red Bulls, look at this, 6th and 7th for them if they can keep going. And Michael Schumacher is in the points positions finally as a result of those two cars being removed. But I have to say, the feeling for me is that was an unnecessary accident, really.
Yeah, probably from both of them. Fisichella was hot, but Webber squeezed him, came from the other. Fisichella was in front at the braking point. Mark braked very late and went in to squeeze him. And you're going to get run into if you push the guy on the marbles like that. But I hope nobody's got a pit at the moment, because the pit lane is effectively closed off. I'm surprised they didn't bring the recovery vehicle out of the pit lane and just lift that Doreno from a different direction. But we'll see how that goes when, if we watch Alonso through the last corner, just check and see if the pit lane is now open. Yellow flags waving. And one of those two drivers that went out, the track is now clear, we're told. So yes, the pit lane's clear, they can pit, but I wouldn't surprise if one of those two drivers hadn't picked up a puncture anyway, or all that debris from Raikkonen's earlier puncture.
What would it have been like for Webber then? I mean, because he knows he's got Heidfeld breathing down his neck, but he also knows he's got a speed advantage over Fisichella. Did he feel he had to do it all in that first corner? Could he not have played a slightly longer game?
Yeah, I think what he should have done is just pin Fizzy up the inside where it's dirty. He should have let him run wide, ducked underneath him down the back, the pin straight, and then I think he would have taken him easily for turn one. I think Mark will look at that and wish he'd have done something different, and that incident is going to be investigated quite clearly. They're not bothering to discuss it amongst themselves.
Well, it's cost both of them the chance of a podium. You'd have to say Mark Webber looked the better chance of the podium, with Fisichella clearly struggling with the rear end of that car. Webber in good shape, it's cost him his first ever podium. Now Heidfeld has that opportunity.
But what about Fisichella's World Championship? Yeah, 10 points from the first run. Today he needed 6 or 8 or something just to keep himself up there, and it's opened the door massively for Fernando Alonso.
Well, here we are then. Jarno Trulli coming through to put a lap on Rubens Barrichello. He's already been lapped by Fernando Alonso. And who would have thought this? For Toyota laps a Ferrari in the second Grand Prix of the 2005 season. Toyota look as though they've got the speed. They faded, well, Trulli faded in Melbourne after the first round of pit stops, but here he's right on the money. 17 seconds behind Alonso, albeit, yes, but he's lapping the good pace and he's keeping Heidfeld at the moment 20 seconds behind him as the race leader pits on lap 41. Ted Kravitz.
It looks like they're going to make an adjustment to the front wing on this one. Yes, it looks like just a small turn of more front wing on there to help balance out the car. No massive pressure increases or decreases there. Good stop for Renault, good for Alonso.
Situation under control at Renault for one of the drivers very much. Flavio Briatore calm. His man still leading the Grand Prix. Out and back out on track he goes. Fernando Alonso, fuel to the finish, just 16 laps to go.
Yeah, it's looking handsome, isn't it, for Fernando now? He can pace himself to the end of the Grand Prix. I'm sure he's done a good job for Toyota in second place. Heidfeld then now up into third in a podium slot. Amazing. Ralf Schumacher solid in fourth for Toyota. Montoya has had a bit of a nothing afternoon, but finds himself P5. He jumped the Red Bulls at the first pit stop, and that's left then Coulthard 6th, who's pulling away now quite a lot from clear in 7th. Michael Schumacher 8th.
Yeah, Montoya's mission now will be to jump Ralf Schumacher at the next round of pit stops.
Here's a replay of Rubens Barrichello.
It's the Minardi of Albers. Just running wide there. I think it was Rubens Barrichello and Jarno Trulli went past to lap him. Wow, look at the speed differential. So Heidfeld on for a podium, but as I say, the battle between Ralf Schumacher and Montoya as Trulli lets his feeling be known. It's going to be interesting in the second round of pit stops, no doubt about that. We reflect on what might have been for Kimi Raikkonen down in 10th place, but he was looking good for a podium at one point, wasn't he? Until he had that puncture following the pit stop. The situation is still not really clearly explained what happened there. We've seen a clear picture of it, but we just saw it flying across a field with a puncture already, so something happened there.
Yeah, it's a pity because Raikkonen would have been right in that mix too, wouldn't he, with Webber and Fisichella, Heidfeld and Co. They were very much racing together. There's your race leader then. Remaining Renault in the Grand Prix. We've had 6 retirements, Fisichella and Webber running into each other. Villeneuve outbraking himself at turn 1. Button and Davidson in the VAR on the early on problems with their engine. Frisacker spinning off on some oil left by Button's engine. 3 Brits started this Grand Prix, only one of them remaining sadly, and that's Coulthard up in 6th place.
Well, Toyota getting ready for one of their 2 drivers. It is Ralf Schumacher. In he comes. Montoya takes that position. This is where Montoya's going to start putting the hammer down now. He knows about it. He's done a 136.6. He knows going on to the Toyota there for Ralf Schumacher.
I suspect that was after he had that contact with Webber in the final turn earlier on. There were definitely 1 or 2 pieces flicking around, weren't there? So Ralf clearly lost some pace and balance. Coulthard's pitted from 6th place. Clean had already pitted the other Red Bull. That puts Michael Schumacher up momentarily. He's now lapping in the 136s. Just plodding around really, but he looks like he's going to score a point or 2.
Well, last time round, Montoya pitted 3 laps after Ralf Schumacher. Took on on about the same amount of fuel, so this is where he's got to do the damage. Montoya, if he wants to try and grab 4th place here this afternoon, in comes the man who was leading the race briefly after Alonso made the pit stop, Jarno Trulli. That will allow Alonso back into the lead again of this Grand Prix. Heidfeld and Montoya, the Williams, currently in 3rd and 4th, yet to make their second stops, as in comes Trulli. Having a strong afternoon, Jarno Trulli. Everything fairly business-like. Toyota coming of age here. Second on the grid in Australia and again here in Malaysia. Into the pits comes current 3rd place man, Nick Heidfeld. He's been on the podium before with the Sauber team back in Brazil a couple of years ago. Long fuel stop, neat and tidy, back into business. Well, it's interesting, Williams brought a lot of aerodynamic modifications to this race, 14 different parts of the chimneys to the heat out, the wings and flips and things like that to increase the downforce. Speaking of Heidfeld yesterday afternoon, he said we haven't tested any of these parts. We've literally taken them from the wind tunnel, fabricated them and brought them out here and stuck them on the car. Such is the confidence they've got, really, in the wind tunnel process. They didn't even feel they needed to test them. It also reflects the fact that they do need to find some more downforce on this car. And there's no question that it's made it more competitive here this weekend. Interestingly, Martin, Mika Häkkinen, I hear, has published his autobiography last Friday in Finland, and in it there's a full account of how he very nearly came back to race for Williams this year. It all happened just before the Jenson Button story broke. Frank Williams was on the phone trying to get him into the car, and then the Button story broke and Häkkinen just faded into the background. There's a full account of it in that story, it's very interesting.
Yes, I would imagine there's probably a bit of Ferrari or Toyota goodies somebody can collect later. I also imagine maybe Ron and McLaren would have been talking Mika out of coming back to Formula 1, especially for a rival team, and they're heading off and working with Mercedes instead.
So on lap 44, just 13 to go, and Jarno Trulli is keeping the pace very nicely in this Toyota. He's heading for Toyota's first ever podium finish in Formula 1. But everyone's been saying all weekend it's going to be the last 10-15 laps or so that are going to tell on these engines their second race, and the tyres having to do the whole Grand Prix. There is Montoya making his stop. He was in 3rd place. Now what's going to happen? Where does he come feeding back out again relative to Ralf Schumacher? That is the big question. Here he comes out of the pit lane. There is a Toyota going down to turn 1. That Toyota is Ralf Schumacher, and Montoya has jumped in for 4th place. That's the winglet. That's the answer to our question. Whose bit of bodywork was that? It was Ralf Schumacher's the lap before. That won't have helped his lap time particularly, but he couldn't respond to Montoya, and Montoya has made the move up into 4th place. That's great news for him and the McLaren team. But as I was saying, how many will fail to finish this Grand Prix? We've got 13 laps to go, the most difficult part of the race still to come. Just 11 laps to go then in this Malaysian Grand Prix, the second round of the Formula One World Championship of Sepang. James Allen and Martin Brundle with you. We're riding on board with Kimi Raikkonen, who's down in 10th place. He was a podium contender at one point. There is Felipe Massa going defensive in front of him in the Sauber, down into 14. Didn't work, got dirt on his tyres, I think, Martin, and he's run wide.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I think Mark Webber should have done when I was trying to explain how I think he should have not exposed himself, exposed his car in front of Fisichella earlier. I had a feeling that was all going to end in tears. I knew that scrap earlier on, but Raikkonen just bided his time there, pushed the guy on the inside and waited for him to fail to slow down on the really slippery stuff.
Yeah, very unfortunate incident between Fisichella.
Don't forget to drink, Felipe, drink, don't forget to drink.
Message there for Felipe Massa. Didn't quite catch what he said. Something to do with a drink. Don't forget to take a drink. Here's another look. Offline then, Massa.
Yeah, Massa busy offline and watching Raikkonen, I suspect, and just opens the door for him. Like most racing drivers, I'm half deaf, so I can't really fully hear these radio stuff they're putting across. But Massa then just making it very easy for him. Here's another line. Raikkonen committed very early to the racing line, and that left Massa wondering where it was.
If you're looking at all that debris down that back straight into the corner, that debris from Kimi Raikkonen's car, he had a massive blowout about 10-15 laps ago that took him out of podium contention. And well, there's still the bits are still all the way down that straight. Most of the carcass of the tyre has now been cleared away, but it certainly played a role this afternoon. It played a role in the Fisichella and Webber battle. Here's your race leader, Fernando Alonso. Jarno Trulli started second, he's still second. Nick Heidfeld started this Grand Prix in 10th place, and he is up now on a podium position in third. Juan Montoya, he started this Grand Prix in 11th, and he has managed to jump Ralf Schumacher, as of course, his second pit stops. He's now into fourth place. Ralf Schumacher is fifth, which is where he started this Grand Prix, and David Coulthard is up into sixth place. Michael Schumacher has finally made some progress. He's seventh in the Ferrari, and he started this race down in 12th place. And I understand Ted Kravitz has something for us.
I've just been into Renault, and the team are now concerned that the tyre wear that was affecting Fisichella is now affecting Fernando Alonso. They're concerned about some blisters on the rear wheels. See if you can see a sort of radial line of blisters around the rear wheels, but if that gets worse, that could be a big problem for Fernando.
Yes, he's just matching his pace at the moment, maintaining his 16-second lead. I'd be surprised if Trulli's tyres were in much better shape. Certainly his front ones look as if they've got blisters on the right front there. You can see that'll be mostly snatching them under braking. Look, he's fighting the car all the way into the corner. Now we're seeing the drivers paying a heavy penalty for excessive tyre wear, and they really do look horrible, don't they? But I don't mind it, it's a skill. You've got to be able to drive around a changing car. It's a fundamental skill of being a racing driver, let alone a Grand Prix driver. What's going to be interesting for me, James, as we watch Ralf Schumacher on track, trying to hang on to Montoya, just 2.3 seconds adrift, as you can see. But Montoya's teammate Raikkonen is now beginning to catch Clean and Michael Schumacher back in 7th and 8th, so he's got enough laps, I think, to haul the pair of those in, so Raikkonen might just drag that other McLaren back into the points.
So as Jarno Trulli contemplates the 16-second gap he has behind Fernando Alonso, just 8 laps to go, and hoping everyone's going to last here at Sepang. Closing stages of the Malaysian Grand Prix from Sepang. There's Michael Schumacher, reigning world champion, currently in 7th place, going to get himself a couple of points this afternoon. Probably not more. David Coulthard is in 6th place, 4 seconds ahead with 7 laps to go, lapping the same sort of pace as Michael Schumacher. At least he'll get Schumacher off the mark. He didn't score any points in Australia. Race leader Fernando Alonso has a good advantage over Jarno Trulli, almost 18 seconds now, with Nick Heidfeld in 3rd place and Juan Montoya in 4th. It's been an interesting afternoon. Positions 1 and 2 in this race, more or less locked out from the start, with Alonso leading from pole, Trulli from the front row as well, following behind him. But it's been a good battle all afternoon with a final podium position. A lot of contenders for that. Nick Heidfeld, one of them. Rubens Barrichello there. Just look at the tyres on that car. Rubens Barrichello pitting and retiring from this Grand Prix. So that's very bad news for him. Well, he's definitely out of this race, but as I say, it's been a good scrap for 3rd place in the Grand Prix. Kimi Raikkonen was an early candidate for that, started 6th on the grid, but with a slightly longer fuel load in the opening stint, put himself into contention, but then got a tyre blowout, a spectacular one, just after his pit stop, that put paid to any chance of 3rd place here this afternoon. Mark Webber, Giancarlo Fisichella and Nick Heidfeld were duking it out for 3rd as Barrichello there in the Ferrari garage, taking his helmet off. A disappointing afternoon for him and the Ferrari team. We've seen some good racing, some good passing and overtaking between the 2 Williams drivers, Ralf Schumacher. A very interesting incident that will be debated long and hard between Fisichella and Mark Webber that took both of them out of the Grand Prix and took both of them away from any chance of 3rd place. Ferraris, look at those rear tyres. There's no grooves there, are there?
No grooves, no grip. And that's why obviously Barrichello pulled out of the race. He's on the softer tyre than Michael Schumacher. Schumacher's getting away with it. He's keeping Coulthard honest. Coulthard's 6, Schumacher 7. He's pulled away from Klein slightly, but Klein's problem for the final World Championship point is Kimi Raikkonen in the McLaren. He's really going to be under pressure. I think Coulthard looks like he's got the measure of Michael Schumacher to the end of the race, providing there are not too much trouble with back markers or doesn't make a mistake. But Klein is going to come under pressure, just like he did 2 weeks ago in Melbourne. And he withstood it, didn't he? Klein kept Raikkonen at bay in the final laps.
Well, Giancarlo Fisichella at the centre of that very controversial incident with Mark Webber. He's talking now live with Louise Goodman.
Giancarlo, no fairy tale ending this weekend.
Yeah, bad weekend. Unfortunately, the car wasn't fantastic. The grip was not enough. I was struggling a bit, but third was okay for me. Then I lost the dashboard in one of the curves, and I lost lots of downforce. I lost a couple of seconds per lap. Marco was catching me, that was normal. He overtook me before the last corner, then just after I overtook him again. I was ahead. In the last corner I went through the corner and I saw him coming from the outside, but there was no possibility for him to overtake me, and for me there was no space enough, and with the accident.
His fault, your fault, or just one of those things?
It's not my fault.
Thanks, Giancarlo.
I think that's a fair description of what happened. He was definitely ahead going into the corner, and Mark tried to steam in and pinch him. He pinched him and ran into the side of him, but you know, at the end of the day, it was Fizzy who slid into the side of the Williams. But I'm going to give that 60-40, 60% Mark's fault.
Easy on the tyres, they're telling Trulli. The interesting thing was, a couple of laps later, we saw Felipe Massa go down that left-hand side, where it's obviously very dirty. There's a lot of debris there from Raikkonen's tyre and dust and what have you, and he had absolutely no grip at all when he tried to stop the corner. Fisichella we saw slide right out on the braking zone, so perhaps the same thing happened to him. He picked up a lot of muck, trying to be defensive going down the inside, and had no grip when he went to the outside and hit Webber. It was certainly a very unfortunate incident.
Indeed. Right, what's going on with that battle between Raikkonen and Clean? Down to 3.4 seconds now, coming off at about a second a lap. It's going to be a last lap business, isn't it, between those two for the final points. Otherwise, we've got 2 Red Bulls in the points at the moment. Alonso's lead out now to 19 seconds and coasting. Heidfeld's dropped back in third place. He's 15 seconds adrift. I think he can be satisfied with his afternoon. It'll be his second third place in his Grand Prix career. Montoya now comfortably and out on his own in fourth. Ralf Schumacher has fallen back again a little bit more in fifth. Coulthard half a minute behind in sixth. Ted has further news.
Just down at Ferrari, Rubens has retired a healthy-ish car. The only problem was there was just no grip. He said, I cannot drive this, there is no grip. Ross said, look, you're down the points, you're out of it, you might as well come in. But apart from that, the car was healthy enough.
Yes, and because it doesn't really matter that he didn't. So we saw the two VARs pull out before the end of the Melbourne Grand Prix because you can have a free engine change without a 10-place grid penalty. But that doesn't apply to Rubens because he can have a fresh engine next race anyway. They just decided to park it rather than risk going in the wall.
On board with the race leader, the man who's dominated.
Well, I don't know how he was going to repass me again. His tyres were absolutely finished, and I passed him on the current square at 14, which is not easy to get in there, but I managed to get in there, and then I thought, yeah, of course, he's going to be my slipstream and I'm straight, but you know, where can I go? It's so wide, so he came down the inside, there was zero grip down the inside, it's very dirty, so I went back to the braking on the clean line, and he comes straight in the side, he braked very late on the inside on the dirty line, so I don't know how he was ever going to stop better than me because he had no tyres and he was on the dirty side.
You gave it some great feisty racing today. You could have been on the podium.
Yeah, the podium was there, which is really disappointing because Williams and BMW have done a great job, and I think my qualifying went well. It showed where we stopped and qualifying was good, but hopefully the fans enjoyed it and we'll do it again next time.
Cheers, man. Yeah, well, I think they're both rehearsing with Louise what they're going to say to the stewards later on because that incident is under investigation and it's almost certainly going to be declared a racing incident.
There is Jarno Trulli. Some aerodynamic modifications on this car certainly seem to have made a difference. New front wing, new parts, they've got the pace. Mike Gascoigne, the team's technical director, said that the thing was to understand how to get the most out of the Michelin tyre. They've been working very hard with Michelin over the winter testing. They've done more testing than any other Formula One team. They've got 2 full-time test drivers, Ricardo Zonta and Olivier Panis, in addition to Trulli and Ralf Schumacher. The whole Toyota thing had to take a step forward in 2005. So much money had been invested, and here we go with only 2 laps to go. Trulli on target for Toyota's first ever podium in Formula One. Fernando Alonso is 21 seconds up the road. He's looking for his second career victory, but more crucially, to go away from here with the World Championship lead. 16 points he will have. Teammate Fisichella not scoring today. And that will be a very crucial stage for Fernando Alonso, who really believes he can put a championship together this year. Didn't count what happened in Melbourne because he started so far back on the grid after that rain-affected qualifying. This, he said, will be a normal weekend. I come here, I do my job. He has done his job spectacularly well. He's now just 1 lap away from victory.
Ironically, Clean under pressure from Kimi Raikkonen has pushed Clean up to the back of Michael Schumacher in 7th and 8th as we watch Alonso happily on his last lap. But it's Michael Schumacher, Clean and Raikkonen, the 3 of them are just 2 seconds adrift.
There you go then, that's the top 8 on the final lap. Been an eventful afternoon, the hottest and hardest Grand Prix of the year. The drivers have withstood it. The track temperature is still right up there, 47 degrees. The air temperature 34. They'll have lost best part of half a stone in body weight. Over 4 litres of fluids will have gone out, and all they'll have been able to put back during the race from their little drinks bottle in the car is about a litre, which after a couple of laps will be as hot as the hottest cup of tea you've ever tasted. So it's been a tough afternoon for everybody, but some stunning performances, not least from this man.
I bet most of the drinks bottles are at least half full. You just have it there. It's I don't know what it is. It's a psychological thing. Actually, getting fluid into your body when you're driving a Formula 1 car is nearly impossible to do it without choking yourself or. And most of the systems don't really work that well. It's your body system that really struggles to cope with drinking while you're under so much load inside the car.
He can almost get out and push it home. He's got 23 seconds lead over Jarno Trulli. This young man's date with destiny is right here, right now. He started this race 2 years ago from pole position. Got a podium that day, but that was the best he could do. He's come here with the best car in Formula 1 at the moment, and he has won the Malaysian Grand Prix, and he thoroughly deserves it.
Come on, guys. You are number one. You are number one, guys.
You are indeed number one.
You are the best. We show everybody that. Good job. Good weekend. Thank you so much.
Well, champion-elect, speaking on the radio there.
A little bit early to say, who knows, but he's certainly a contender. And look at this, the first podium in Formula 1 for Toyota. Fantastic effort from Jarno Trulli. And there is Nick Heidfeld. That's great for him on his first year with BMW Williams. And nothing to choose between Michael Schumacher, Klein and Raikkonen. Look, waiting to see them come out of the final corner. We're looking at Flavio Briatore as Montoya crosses the line 4th. But what about Ralf Schumacher? He is in 5th place, waiting for him to see him come through. It's been a hard-working afternoon for Flavio, judging by his shirt. And here we go. This is the scrap. Michael Schumacher, Klein behind him, Raikkonen just right behind Klein as well. There you can see the three of them. Can any of them do anything?
I think Raikkonen's just a touch too far behind the Red Bull, not been too shabby on straight line speed. And I don't think Raikkonen's got a chance, and that's how it's going to end. Michael Schumacher. Coulthard has finished 6th. Schumacher will be 7th. And Klein is going to snatch a point one more time, holding Kimi Raikkonen off at the end of the Grand Prix. Raikkonen after that puncture there with nothing to take home from actually a very good drive in 9th place.
Wow, what an afternoon for Raikkonen, but absolutely nothing to take away from it apart from learning something about the car possibly. But what an afternoon once again for Red Bull Racing. 6th and 8th. Another 4 points for them then to add to their tally from Melbourne, and they're looking pretty good.
Yeah, I read in all the British papers about Coulthard being on pocket money in the points bonus, which is absolute rubbish. I didn't read anything that was remotely accurate, but DC with a nice contract doing a good job.
There is the race winner, Fernando Alonso. We'll see the emotion in a moment when he gets out of the car and goes up onto the podium. Welcome back to Sepang, where 23-year-old Fernando Alonso has won the Malaysian Grand Prix, second Grand Prix in a row then this season to have been won by Renault, and that's why they're in that commanding position. You can see P1 in the World Championship. Toyota, would you believe, going to second ahead of Red Bull Racing, with Ferrari down in fourth, and then Williams and McLaren. What a Constructors' Championship table that is. BAR Honda, nothing for them this afternoon. Anthony Davidson standing in for the ill Takuma Sato, and Jenson Button both retiring early with what looked like engine problems, but I bet Mike Gascoigne is a happy man. He is the technical director of Toyota. They've got their first podium this afternoon, and he will say that he had a hand in setting up the Renault team that's currently dominating Formula 1.
James, but Mike Gascoigne, certainly you're not sweating. I bet you were sweating in the last few laps of that race, weren't you?
Yeah, we did say that after the second pit stops it would be a long few laps. It seemed to take forever, but Jarno's doing a great job looking after the car. So yeah, fantastic result for the team.
Great drive from him, because he's got a bit of a reputation. We know he's a great qualifier, but really pumped in the lap times today.
Yeah, I mean, he was criticised. You know, people said after Melbourne it was Jarno dropping off the pace. Well, he showed what he can do here, and you know, I'm very pleased with the guy. He's a fantastic guy, and it's just a great effort from him and the whole team.
What's this going to mean to the team? Because there's been a bit of pressure from Japan to get results, hasn't there, this year?
Yeah, well, we delivered, and so, you know, we need to go on and we need to start winning some races.
Thanks very much, Mike.
Great news, Mike Gascoigne. There's the Renault team, waiting to see their man come on the podium. Only one of their cars finished today. Fisichella eliminated in an accident, but big up to Bob Bell, the new technical director of Renault, who took over when Gascoigne left the team for Toyota. He has steered the ship and moved it forward. And his chief aerodynamicist, Dino Tozo, also watching back in the UK, I've no doubt. Fantastic job by all of his aerodynamic departments to produce a tremendous car that is quick over a single lap, is quick over a race distance, looks after its tyres, and this year it's so important. Also the people over in France, Rob White and his team making the engines, they've found an extra 30 horsepower. It all adds up to a formidable package from the Renault. And the big names of Formula 1, Ferrari, McLaren, Williams, have got some catching up to do, for sure. Toyota, though, will be very, very happy with their performance. I guess we have to look at the drive of the day, Martin. There's a few pretty strong performances today.
Yeah, I think so. A bit of me wants to give it to Nick Heidfeld, and there'll be some smiling and slightly relaxed faces, I think, of Williams on that, just wondering how good is Nick Heidfeld, and I think he's delivered a very mature performance today, and a solid and well-earned third place. In the end, though, it's Alonso who got the job done in qualifying. Obviously, he set his car up better than Fisichella. Fisichella lost that barge board in there. That's when he started backing himself into the field with aerodynamic imbalance. But for the second race, it's 2 out of 2 for Renault, and for me, it's 2 out of 2 for Alonso.
2 out of 2 drivers of the day then for Fernando Alonso, the new World Championship leader. We're only 2 races into 19. He's certainly one of the men we expect to see close to the top at the end of the season, but we certainly haven't heard the last of Ferrari. They were off the pace here this weekend. The bodywork of Michael Schumacher, Ross Brawn, and these born winners who've had so much success says that they're going to go back to Italy. They're going to try and sort this problem out. Certainly a lot of testing going to happen next week with Mugello, Barrichello and Michael Schumacher going to have a run in the new car to make the final decision whether or not they should bring it to Bahrain in 2 weeks' time. But it certainly would be a bit of a gamble. Pace here this weekend would be one of the deciding factors, and I think the lesson is that they need it as soon as possible. The Malaysian fans had to sit out there in searing heat today, but they've seen a decent race, and they've seen a young man who is moving further and further up the rankings in Formula 1. Undoubtedly a champion of the future, but will that future be this year? The Spanish anthem for Alonso, the French for Renault. He looks like he's struggling a bit on the podium though. It's been hard work for an hour and a half behind the wheel, but he manages a smile. Fernando Alonso went to the Maldives to do some training and a bit of a relax after the Australian Grand Prix to acclimatise himself. Flavio Briatore there collects a trophy once again, 2 in a row then, 2 wins in a row for the Renault team. And I bet these boys will be hoping that champagne they're about to spray is nice and cold because they need to cool down. Trulli, one of his best friends, unfortunately back in Italy, died this weekend. He's an emotional man as a result of that, but there he is collecting 2nd place. And Nick Heidfeld, what a great moment for him.
Second podium for Heidfeld. What we need now is the new 2005 Ferrari to be the business and get right in amongst this lot as well for some cracking Grand Prix about to come up. David Coulthard becomes the highest scoring British Grand Prix driver of all time, with just passing Nigel Mansell today, so he'll be pretty chuffed with that. But these guys will be even more pleased, I suspect.
Well, there's a bit of a lack of effort about the champagne spraying for Fernando Alonso, but no lack of effort behind the wheel. He is the new World Championship leader, and next stop is Bahrain.
Thank you very much. Bye bye. See you in Bahrain.
Congratulations to the 3 podium finishers of the torrid Petronas Malaysian Grand Prix. Nick Heidfeld third for BMW Williams, Jarno Trulli second for Panasonic Toyota, and winning Renault's second Grand Prix in a row, Fernando Alonso. Fernando, it looked today as if you had to win 2 races, once against your opposition and another against the conditions out there.
Yeah, it was very tough conditions, as we knew before the start of the race, and unfortunately the drink bottle didn't work, so half a race had problems, and I finished on the limit for the hydration.
The car over that distance, it looked faultless, but what was it like in the cockpit?
Yeah, it was okay. I saved a little bit tires at the beginning, thinking that the first stint maybe was the most risky time for the rear tires. And then after that I saw that Jarno was slowing down a little bit, so I slowed down as well, save more tires, and the last stint was just low revs and saving tires again, so I was not pushing really hard in any part of the race, but the car was very easy to drive and really easy.
Those last closing laps in this heat must have seemed very long.
Yeah, not only the last. I think the last 15 or 20 laps were very long, and the same for everybody always here in Sepang. But maybe more if you are in P1, you are very close to win the race. It's the second race for the engine and for the car, and you are a little bit worried, obviously. But everything was perfect, and the team show again that we are the team to beat.
Congratulations, a fantastic drive. Jarno, congratulations to you too. First ever podium finish for the Panasonic Toyota team. Tried to hold on to Fernando there in the early laps. Tell us about that, and then as the race progressed.
I had an extremely good start, but again the Renault seems getting away pretty well. Anyway, I drove my race. I was quite competitive. I was following Fernando. But at one stage I could see that there was no matches, and I started managing the race, taking care of the tires. During the first race I had a tire problem, and then I just managed to finish the race. I think I was pretty easy in second position, pulling away, controlling people from the pit. They kept telling me to slow down, so it's fantastic to bring the first podium finish to Toyota.
In these conditions, the more so, using this engine now for 2 Grand Prix, the tyres for the full distance, how near to the limit were you towards the end?
Let's say that we were quite comfortable on reliability, even if in this condition it's always terrible with Marmorini zone, and all this crew has done a fantastic job over the winter time in reliability stuff. But I think after race I started pulling down revs and tried to slow down, taking care of the tires. And also the heat was really hard for the driver's side, and for this I have to thank Ceccarelli, because he treated me with infusion as I was sick at the beginning of this week.
A wonderful drive, congratulations too. Nick, been quick all weekend, but 10th on the grid up to 3rd place, a fabulous race for you, and you don't actually look that sweaty or hot.
No, it was very hot. I mean, as usual in hot races, as Fernando just said, also my drink bottle failed. This always ends on the places where you don't want it to happen from the beginning on. And other than probably those 2 guys, I had to push very hard, as I was only 10th on qualifying, because I did a mistake in Q2, and I thought that cost me the race, but I had a very good start and some good overtaking maneuvers.
And an interesting race from your point of view. You were racing there with Ralf Schumacher, and also later on, of course, you were right behind Mark Webber and Giancarlo Fisichella.
Yeah, I was together with 2 other cars at a lot of the stages of the race, so it was not like one-on-one. It was 2 people fighting in front of me, and then the 3rd car getting involved. It was very complex, but very interesting, and I got the upper hand.
And the car, the tyres, the engine?
Obviously, everything was really good. In the end, as normal, we tried to save the engine a bit, pushed really hard in the middle stint. In the end, the last 10 laps was just controlling the pace to Montoya.
Very good drive. Fernando, we return to you as the first Spaniard ever to lead the FIA Formula One World Championship, and Renault looking very dominant at the moment. Your thoughts about the upcoming races?
It will be maybe more difficult for us because we start in very strong position, but we saw this weekend that Toyota, Williams, and always McLaren and Ferrari are very strong, and the competition is tough now. So Bahrain was not a perfect place for us last year, so I think we will suffer a little bit. And then when we arrive in Europe, I think will be also tough, because has been always good for the other teams. But this year everything seems different. Renault is always good in any type of the circuits, and I'm totally confident that in Bahrain we will be again the reference.
Congratulations. Now, if we could have some words from you in Spanish.
Sí, ha sido una carrera muy dura. Desde el principio el coche no iba del todo bien, pero intenté calcular y proteger un poco los neumáticos de atrás. Y bueno, veía que me iba de llano poco a poco y bueno, seguí sin arriesgar tanto con las revoluciones del motor como con los neumáticos, y al final acabé en buenas condiciones. Por desgracia, el sistema de bebida de agua no funcionó en esta carrera y no pude beber nada, y la verdad es que cuando me bajé del coche tuve una baja de presión y bueno, sufrí un poco más en el podio casi que en el coche.
Thank you. Jana?
È stata una bella gara per me, una buona partenza e la macchina è andata bene tutto il weekend, sono molto contento. È una bella sfida che vinco con un nuovo team, è il primo podio per la Toyota, quindi è estremamente bello, anche se ho delle emozioni miste in questo momento e dedico questa mia bellissima gara a Stefano, un mio carissimo amico che oggi non c'è più.
Thank you, Jana. And Nick in German.
Ja, natürlich total zufrieden mit dem Rennen, zumal ich vom 10. Startplatz gestartet bin, mein zweites Podium, dem 3. Platz. Das Auto ist problemlos gelaufen, das ganze Rennen. Hatte ein paar interessante Kämpfe und Überholmanöver, und ich denke, es war oder hoffe, dass für alle Zuschauer ein interessantes Rennen war.
Thank you, gentlemen.